Okay. Alhamdulillah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Thank you for joining another week of Marriage in Islam according to Al-Quran and Sunnah. Sunnah to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Many of several of the team members are out, so unfortunately we don't have a slide today. So we will just kind of have an open conversation, inshallah. And I wanted to share with everyone that inshallah next week, until the time changes, which I believe is the first weekend in November, we will push the class to 7:30, inshallah. So that way we can pray Salatul Maghrib and be present for the meeting, and the meeting can go for the full hour without interruption or without fear of delaying the Salah. So just to recap from last week or the last time we met, we talked about the rights of wives in Islam, the rights of wives, but not just the fiqh of marriage, going over the rights of the husbands and wives, but also the natural interaction between husband and wife according to the Sunnah, following in the example of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and our mothers, rahmatullahi alayhim, that how they interacted with each other. How did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam treat his wives, and how did our mothers treat Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? And so we had some very good discussions so far, alhamdulillah, and we will probably continue on this until next week. Jazakallah khair. Looks like our sister was able to find. I'm gonna see if I can share the screen. Let's see if I can bring this up and share the screen, inshallah. Let's go to Zoom. And let's see if I can share my screen, inshallah. Let's share WhatsApp. Hopefully no one will message me right now. So let's see if I can blow that up. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Okay, so this is the last slide that we had discussion on. And subhanallah. Oh. Allahumma musta'an.
You okay, brother?
Yeah. Allahumma musta'an. Yeah, alhamdulillah. I think that my power strip was off.
Okay.
So anyway, this is the slide from last week that we or the last meeting that we discussed. And just to kind of recap some of those points quickly, is that understanding and caring for your spouse, keys to developing permanent and lasting love in marriage. We did talk a lot about how husbands are expected to be leaders of their families and are expected to abide by the Quran and Sunnah and guide the family accordingly. And so this has been a point that we spent a lot of time discussing of, how can a husband fulfill this obligation of leading the family and leading according to Quran and Sunnah. And I think what we concluded, and we can discuss this now, is that this is a work in progress, obviously. Husbands have the added responsibility of maintaining the wives and the children in the family. And as a result, the husband should take time to educate himself first and foremost, rectify himself first and foremost, and to um, uh, struggle or strive fi sabilillah in the way of Allah to better himself. Because the first, um, I would say the first obligation of leadership is to one's self. And then secondly, the husband would be able to um, lead his wife and his children. Looks like the slide changed. Did someone change the slide? SubhanAllah. Okay. So, did something change on the slide?
Yeah, it
Okay,
changed the
okay,
page.
okay. That must have been me. Excuse me on that. I touched the screen and I see that. Okay, I was able to hold it. I don't know what that is about.
Don't worry, inshallah, I'll try again. Um,
Pardon me about that.
no, it's okay.
Mhm.
While we're working on that, um, no, it's just,
Okay, there is that. There it goes.
yes, this is it.
Okay, let me.
Okay. And we did talk about education of the wife and children, which is the tarbiyah. The tarbiyah of the wife and children is also an added responsibility of the husband. That you know, our wives are oftentimes preoccupied with taking care of the children and caring for the husband and taking care of the home. Oftentimes she's not able to attend uh, education classes at the masjid or different things of that nature, as the husband can freely come and go and is encouraged to. And so the husband has an added responsibility to do his best to educate his wife and children. And the wives have a responsibility to do her best to accept the leadership of her husband, and not unnecessarily challenge him on his um, leadership and on his effort to educate. And I think this is where sometimes we kind of get off track in our marriages, because there's a level of sometimes a level of, I would say, doubt, or sometimes because of other personal issues between the husband and wife, it kind of impacts the relationship when it comes to tarbiyah. And so husbands and wives have a responsibility um, to try not to allow differences or even differences of opinion on certain things to hinder the relationship or the tarbiyah of the family and the leadership of the husband in the home. Um, any comments or thoughts about that? Has anyone encountered or heard of issues where uh, the husband's leadership in the home is in question or being challenged? Um, how can we follow the Sunnah? How did the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam deal with that, or some of his Sahaba deal with that? I have one example that comes to mind, but I just wanted to open the floor to hopefully get some interaction.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Well, I believe, and this is of my understanding, the prime example is to obey Allah's command, His decrees, His haduds, in line with the way that the Rasulullah alayhi salam did such, as an example. So, I mean, when you have mentioned that leadership is towards oneself first and then the family. This is the criteria or the foundation to be upon to even be looked up as upon a leader, and this takes on several different details and particulars to summarize. Inshallah, I mean that's my understanding, my brother.
Alhamdulillah. Yes, this is um I also agree with that that first and foremost we have to rectify ourselves before we can attempt to lead others, and we should attach ourselves to people of knowledge. One of the most dangerous things that a Muslim can do is to isolate oneself away from the Jama'at and to go off onto a path of seeking knowledge with no um, guardrails, no teacher, no just oneself. And unfortunately, I've heard it said that the one who tries to do or to take on this path of Islam alone, Shaitan becomes his teacher and his sheikh. May Allah Ta'ala protect us from this. So
I mean,
we should be looking towards, and husbands especially, should have a community to be part of and search for people of knowledge who can um, help us in our journey in Islam and to correct us if and when we face challenges and in some cases if we go in the wrong direction.
Well,
Sheikh Saif, Bismillah.
real quick, I visited a sheikh home once, and him and his wife, well, they argue all the time, but they've been married now 50 years, and it's just like a thing that they do. And they kind of wait for company to come over to argue, as because they want you to take sides. But one of the things they do, and it's not done in any mean way. It's just they're just cantankerous like that. But one of the things they do is when they have tension,
Yes.
they offer each other tea. Okay, that's like the breaker. So when you have tension in the home, what we don't want to do is we don't want to be stop talking to each other for days on end. Now, this thing when we say you shouldn't let 3 days go by for you, if you have a problem with someone. I don't think that applies to marriage because 3 years is a long time to be in a home with someone and not talk to them. Wouldn't you agree?
Mm.
And you get the cold shoulder. So what is going to be the icebreaker? Is it going to be, baby, let me rub your feet, let me get a massage, let me go out and get you your favorite dessert, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But these things are necessary. Somebody's got to break that ice. That's what I'm saying.
Wow. It's a very important point that we don't allow long periods of time to go by with unresolved issues or conflict within the home and within the marriage. Sister Maya has her hand raised. Bismillah, Sister Maya.
Yes, assalamu alaikum. What happened is leadership it has a big meaning. It's not just my way or highway.
Yes.
That's what happened in most of marriage. The men like to just very dictator, right? Dictatorship, and this is actually like in culture. Okay, so leadership is someone that able to listen, someone who's able to take input, and then share as a teamwork.
Yes.
And show example, and also with a lot of knowledge. To be a leader, you have to have a reach of knowledge, and so to be successful as a husband, as a leader, you always seek knowledge and understand. The men need to understand women. Women is very complicated. You can't read them like reading a book. So understanding the psychological aspect of it and culture differences, and so that will be very helpful in the domestic, relationship, especially when the children exist, because they observe, they listen. We think, oh, 2 years old kid, 3 years old kid, they don't understand, but actually they will remember when they become teenagers. They said, "Ma, Dad, I remember how you fight. You hit mom. You hit my mother when I was little." So they remember that. So inshallah, that's just my input. Jazakallah khair.
Wayaka. And this raises a very important point of adab, or having good manners and good interactions. Part of the what I'm hearing from each person has to do with when conflict does arise, how do we approach each other and how do we reconcile with each other? Because in a marriage, the husband and wife are supposed to be companions of and protectors of one another, and we're on the same team. We're both striving for the success of our own. We're both striving for the success of the family, and so even though we both want good for the family, there are times where conflict and differences will arise, and that's, in my view, by design. That Allah Azza wa Jal put two very different human beings together, the male and the female, who are not alike. The male is not like the female, and Allah Azza wa Jal tells us this. So we know that we're not alike. We see things differently. We think differently. We operate differently. And we are coming together and learning how to coexist, and to beyond coexist, to love each other and support each other. And so the only way that we can make these two very different entities to live in harmony and in peace and in love is through adab, having good akhlaq, good character, and good manners towards each other, and being patient with each other, communicating with each other, and all of those good things that that we know that makes marriages work. And the Prophet ﷺ and our mothers were excellent examples of this. One example I'm sure that we've all heard many times before, is that once Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anh, he was coming to visit with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When he came to the home, he found that his daughter Aisha radiallahu anha was arguing with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and even raising her voice to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And many of us know the story that Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anh, he struck his daughter, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam protected her and shielded her. And in so many ways, he corrected Abu Bakr that he should be patient, to relax, take it easy. So there are going to be times where differences happen and argumentation happens and all of that, but through all of that, the level of respect and adab and akhlaq, the character of the people, must be maintained. And the Prophet ﷺ famously told us he always knew when our mother Aisha was upset with him, because she would call on the Lord of Ibrahim instead of the Lord of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even though we know that Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam worship the same Allah, but she would refer to Ibrahim instead of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this was an indication, but even in that was good adab, that she was not disrespectful although she did let him know of her discontent with some matter between them. And then one last story before we break, inshallah, because the adhan just went off. But there's also another famous hadith related to Umar radiallahu an, when a man was having trouble in his home with his wife, and they got into a big argument, big fight, and the man decided to leave his house, and he wanted to seek counsel or advice from Amir al-Mu'mineen at the time, was Umar radiallahu an. But when he went to knock on the door of Umar radiallahu an, he could hear argumentation, loud voice in the house. So he decided to turn and walk away. And when Umar radiallahu an opened the door, he called the man back and asked the man, what is your need? How can I help you? What's going on? And the man was shy, and he just didn't want to disturb Umar because he could tell something was going on. And Umar insisted. And the man finally confessed that, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, I was coming because my wife and I was having problems. And when I came, I found that you and your wife were having problems. And Umar radiallahu an told the man that be patient with her, because she has to, I'm paraphrasing, that she has to express herself. And he reminded the husband of the good things that she does. Doesn't she take care of your home? Doesn't she care for your children? Doesn't she, do all of these different things? So allow her to express herself and not be harsh with her. And that was essentially the nasiha that he gave to the man. And there are many examples. There's, times when the Prophet ﷺ said that the woman is like a bent rib. And if you try to straighten her exactly and make her, completely straight, you will break her. So you have to allow her to have that flexibility and that room to express herself and to, express her disagreement or discontent without feeling that your leadership is being threatened, or that you are essentially being not respected. But again, not every marriage is the same, not every situation is the same. So we try to take the wisdom from these and other incidents. But essentially that's the advice of the Prophet and the Sahaba, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and the Sahaba. Any last comments before we
Yeah, I think we don't want to raise too high a bar in
yes.
terms of female behavior, because women will say some stuff, bro. If a brother think his wife is not gonna call him an ugly name, he gonna be in for disappointment. And of all the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Aisha was the most spirited,
Yes.
the most one to talk back.
Yes.
And she had, with attitude. God bless her.
I mean,
so let's be careful here that we don't, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because, man, I'm telling you, bro. I mean, I've heard some things from my wife. I said, oh, girl, you talking to me?
Yes.
All right. So I just want to say that.
So inshallah, just as a reminder, next week we will try to push it to 7:30. And when the time changes again in November, we may have another change. But inshallah, next week we'll have, if we do it at 7:30, we'll have a full hour where we can complete the discussion, inshallah. May Allah Ta'ala bless each and every one of us and count this as a hasanat, as a hasana for us, that we try to do something good to strengthen families and to help each other. May Allah Ta'ala forgive us if we said anything wrong or made any mistakes. May Allah Ta'ala bless the Muslimin, the Muslims here in America or any part of the world, especially those who are experiencing oppression and tyranny.
I mean,
Those in Sudan, those in Philistine, Myanmar, and other places. May Allah Ta'ala protect the Muslims and give them victory over their oppressors.
I mean,
سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك ونشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت ونستغفرك ونتوب إليك. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Thank you.
وإياك.